Imagine being told you're getting married. You attend the ceremony, exchange vows, and become legally bound to another person. But there's one unusual detail. Your spouse is dead. They died years ago, and you've never met them. Yet according to tradition, you're now married, bound together for eternity. This is the reality of Minghun, or ghost marriage, a practice that has existed in China for over 2,000 years. Families arrange marriages between deceased individuals, believing this allows both spirits to rest peacefully in the afterlife. The ceremony includes everything a normal wedding would have: red envelopes, ritual offerings, even a bride price paid to the deceased woman's family. In some cases, a living person is married to someone who has died. The living person participates in the ceremony, and from that moment on, they're considered spiritually married to the deceased. Most people who agree to this do it out of family obligation, to fulfill a promise, or to honor tradition. They don't actually believe the dead person's spirit will interact with them. But what happens when the deceased person's spirit didn't want the marriage? What happens when consent wasn't given, and the ritual binds two souls together against one person's will? Tonight, I'm sharing the story of Chen Wei, a man from Guangdong Province who learned that some marriages can't be broken by simply walking away, and that sometimes the only way to end a marriage to a ghost is to perform a divorce ceremony with the dead. Chen Wei was 28 years old in 2017, working as an accountant in a mid-sized city in Guangdong Province. He was the only son in his family, and his parents had traditional views about marriage and family obligations. They'd been pressuring him to marry for years, but Chen Wei was focused on his career and wasn't ready to settle down. Then his father told him about an old promise. 20 years earlier, Chen Wei's grandfather had made an agreement with another family in their village. If either family had a child who died unmarried, the other family would provide a spouse through ghost marriage. It was meant to ensure that no spirit would wander alone in the afterlife. The other family's daughter, Liu Mei, had died 6 months earlier in a car accident. She was 24 years old, a university graduate who had been working in Shenzhen. Her parents were devastated, and they came to Chen Wei's family to invoke the old promise. They wanted their daughter to have a husband in the afterlife. Chen Wei's parents agreed without consulting him. When they told him, he was shocked and angry. "This is ridiculous," he said. "I'm not marrying a dead woman. This is 2017, not ancient China." But his mother begged him. "It's just a ceremony. One day. You burn some paper offerings. You bow to her photo, and it's done. It doesn't mean anything in the real world, but it means everything to her parents, and it honors your grandfather's promise." Chen Wei's father added, "You can still marry whoever you want in the future. This is just spiritual. It's not a real marriage." After weeks of pressure, Chen Wei finally agreed. He told himself it was just theater, a performance to satisfy old people's superstitions. He would go through the motions, and then life would continue as normal. The ceremony was held at Liu Mei's family's ancestral home in the village. Chen Wei had never met Liu Mei when she was alive. He was shown a photograph of her, a pretty young woman with long black hair, smiling at the camera. The photo was placed on an altar, decorated with red fabric and flowers. The ritual was performed by a local Taoist priest. Chen Wei wore a traditional groom's outfit. Paper offerings were burned, A paper house, paper money, paper furniture, everything Liu Mei would need in the afterlife. Red envelopes were exchanged. Chen Wei bowed 3 times to Liu Mei's photo in her ancestral tablet. The priest declared them married. Liu Mei's parents cried with relief and gratitude. Chen Wei felt uncomfortable, but told himself it was over. He could go back to his normal life now. For the first 2 days after the ceremony, nothing unusual happened. Chen Wei returned to his apartment in the city and went back to work. He almost forgot about the whole thing, but on the 3rd morning, he woke up and found something on his pillow next to his head. Long strands of black hair. He lived alone. He'd changed his sheets the day before. The hair hadn't been there when he went to sleep. Chen Wei threw the hair away, thinking maybe it had come from his laundry somehow. But the next morning, there was more hair on his pillow, and the morning after that, always long, black strands, always on the pillow next to where his head had been. Then he started noticing the smell. Every morning when he woke up, his apartment smelled strongly of jasmine perfume. He didn't own any perfume. His windows were closed, but the scent was unmistakable, sweet and floral, filling his bedroom. Chen Wei tried to rationalize it. Maybe the smell was coming from a neighbor's apartment. Maybe the hair was from a previous tenant somehow. But he couldn't explain what happened with his photos. He'd taken several selfies at work and with friends in the days after the ceremony. When he looked at them later, he noticed something in the background of every photo taken after the ghost marriage. A blurry, white figure. Sometimes it looked like it was standing behind him. Sometimes it was partially visible at the edge of the frame, but it was in every single photo. Chen Wei showed the photos to his co-worker. "Do you see this? What is this?" His co-worker stared at the screen. "That's creepy. It looks like a person in white clothes, but there was no one standing there when you took these." That night, Chen Wei couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince himself there was a rational explanation for everything. The hair, the perfume, the figure in his photos. It all had to be coincidence. Then, at exactly midnight, he felt the temperature in his bedroom drop. His breath became visible in the suddenly cold air, and at the foot of his bed, a figure began to materialize. A woman in a red wedding dress, long black hair falling past her shoulders. Her face was pale, her expression blank. It was Liu Mei. He recognized her from the photo at the ceremony. She stood perfectly still, just watching him. Chen Wei couldn't move, couldn't speak. He was frozen with terror. Liu Mei's lips moved, but no sound came out at first. Then, in a whisper that seemed to come from everywhere at once, she spoke. "You married me. Now you belong to me." She appeared every night after that, always at midnight, always at the foot of his bed. Sometimes she just stood there. Other times she would move closer, reaching out toward him with pale hands. Chen Wei would squeeze his eyes shut, too terrified to look, and when he opened them again, she would be gone. But the worst part wasn't the nightly visits. It was what happened when Chen Wei tried to date other women. He'd been seeing someone casually before the ghost marriage, and he tried to continue the relationship. But his girlfriend broke up with him after 2 weeks. "I can't explain it," she said, "but when I'm with you, I feel like someone is watching us, watching me specifically, and it's not a good feeling. It's hostile, like someone hates me." Chen Wei tried dating 2 other women over the next few months, Both relationships ended the same way. The women felt watched, uncomfortable, sometimes even physically unwell when they were with him. One woman showed him a photo she'd taken of them together at a restaurant. In the background, barely visible, was a pale hand resting on Chen Wei's shoulder. Desperate, Chen Wei finally told his mother what was happening. She was quiet for a long time, then said something that made his blood run cold. Did Liu Mei's parents ask her permission before the ceremony? What do you mean? She's dead. How could they ask? In proper Minghun, the family must consult with the deceased spirit. They go to the grave, they burn offerings, they ask for a sign. If the spirit agrees, there will be a sign. A bird landing nearby, a butterfly, something to show consent. Did they do this? Chen Wei realized he didn't know. I don't think so. They just arranged it with you and Dad. His mother's face went pale. Then they bound her to you without her consent. She's trapped in a marriage she didn't agree to. That's why she's angry. Chen Wei learned that Liu Mei had been a modern young woman. She'd left the village to work in the city, had dreams of traveling abroad, had told her friends she didn't believe in the old traditions. Her parents, traditional and conservative, had been disappointed by her modern views. When she died, they'd seen the ghost marriage as a way to make her conform to their wishes, even in death. But Liu Mei's spirit hadn't agreed. She was bound to Chen Wei against her will, and her anger was growing stronger. Chen Wei's mother told him there was only one solution, a divorce ceremony. But finding a Taoist priest willing to perform such a ritual was difficult. Most priests refused, saying it was too dangerous to interfere with spirit marriages. Finally, after months of searching, Chen Wei found an elderly priest in rural Fujian province who specialized in unusual cases. The divorce ceremony required Chen Wei to return to Liu Mei's grave. The priest performed elaborate rituals, chanting prayers and burning special paper documents, divorce papers for the spirit world. Chen Wei had to formally release Liu Mei from the marriage bond and ask her forgiveness for the binding that had been done without her consent. During the ceremony, as the divorce papers burned, Chen Wei felt a sudden, intense, cold wind. For just a moment, he saw Liu Mei's spirit clearly, not angry anymore, but sad. Her expression was one of relief, mixed with sorrow. Then she faded away as the last of the papers turned to ash. The priest told Chen Wei, "She's free now, and so are you." After that night, the phenomena stopped. No more hair on his pillow, no more jasmine perfume, no more figure in his photos, no more midnight visits. Liu Mei's spirit was finally at rest, released from a marriage she had never wanted. Chen Wei never participated in any traditional ceremonies again without asking every possible question, and he became an advocate in his community for ensuring that even ancient traditions respect the wishes and autonomy of everyone involved, living or dead, because he learned that consent matters in every relationship, even marriages that cross the boundary between life and death. Chen Wei's story highlights an important aspect of the Minghun tradition that's often overlooked: consent. In proper ghost marriage ceremonies, both parties, or their families, must agree to the union. The family of the deceased is supposed to consult the spirit, looking for signs of acceptance before proceeding with the ritual. When this step is skipped, when a spirit is bound without permission, Chinese folklore suggests the consequences can be severe. The spirit may become restless, angry, or even vengeful. This isn't because the spirit is evil, but because it's trapped in a situation it never agreed to. The practice of Minghun continues in some rural parts of China, though it's becoming increasingly controversial. Modern Chinese people, especially younger generations, often view it as an outdated superstition. Yet in traditional communities, the belief remains strong that unmarried death brings misfortune and that ghost marriages provide spiritual completion. There's also a darker side to this tradition. In recent years, there have been criminal cases of corpse theft in rural China, where bodies of young women are stolen from morgues or graves and sold for ghost marriages. This illegal trade exploits both grieving families and traditional beliefs for profit. What do you think about the tradition of ghost marriage? Should ancient practices be preserved even when they conflict with modern values? And do you believe consent matters, even for the deceased? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more true ghost stories from across Asia